For regular viewers of my channel, you probably know that I don't actually go out at sunset to photograph very often, but tonight I'm being allowed out. I'm heading to Beachy Head to meet up with Pablo and we're going to be photographing the sunset. Let's get going. Welcome to the video, first of all, Pablo.
Hey.
We speak all the time, but it's been absolutely ages since he was in one of my last videos.
Yeah,
now,
it's been a while.
Somebody said to me the other day, oh, what sort of proportion of your videos and the good weather conditions do you get? Is it like 100% of the time or 50% of the time? And the good thing is, I would say I'm hitting maybe 60 or 70%. I think I get quite lucky with the weather. But the good thing for me is I very rarely have to abandon a YouTube video entirely. But last weekend, Pablo and I went out on a long drive all the way to Bodiam Castle, and we were stood there in the rain in front of this awesome location, and the weather apps, whilst we were standing in the rain, still said 0% chance of rain.
And it was raining.
Such a lie. One quick way of making you look really out of shape: carry a heavy bag, try and talk whilst going up a really steep hill. That should do it. So after using all that energy going up the hill, we're going back down again, because actually, to cut the cars out of the frame, you actually have to go down a bit lower. Plus, as you can see, the grass land behind us is already in shade, because the sun probably got about 45 minutes until it sets. But the lower down you go, that's still in the sunshine, so you'll have a brighter foreground. Look at this bit of cliff coming away. It's just a matter of time before that goes away. Okay, so about 10 or 15 minutes has passed. We had 45 minutes left until the sun was going to set. We set the cameras up, and then the sun went behind a horrendous band of cloud on the horizon. So we're still taking some shots, we're doing some long exposures and some panos, probably going to blend those together. But I think that this is going to be a revisit. Hopefully Pablo can join me, but at the moment, sunset here is restricted to weekends because it's around 4 o'clock and I've got a job. So I'll be back. Morning everybody. As you can probably see in the background, I've parked quite far away from the parking pay and display meter, and there's a reason for that, which I'll show you when I get to the top of the hill. Now this is a nice and easy location to get to. Probably done about an hour's drive this morning. You can park right here, it's pay and display, and then I've got a 2-minute walk up the hill for the composition that I'm going for anyway. Now it's at times like this that it becomes obvious why I come out at sunrise more than I do at sunset. When Pablo and I were here at sunset, we were literally, the car park was full. There were supercars going up and down this road at quite a pace. I've got this place to myself at sunrise, and it's winter, it's not exactly early. It's 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday. My advice to you, if you're gonna come here, probably do a sunrise. I will be back at sunset, maybe not to record, but I'll be back at sunset just to get a variety of images, and then you'll be able to see what this location looks like. Sunrise, sunset. Just got the place to myself. Sunrise it is. In 1999, Bellatute Lighthouse was too close to the edge of the cliff, so they physically picked it up and moved it inland. And in those 23 years, the cliffs have just been slowly eroding away, and I think they're going to have to pick it up again and move it in, so a bit embarrassing for the project manager of that. As you'll see when we get up there, it is starting to look a bit too close to the edge of the cliff now. So unfortunately Pablo's not going to be in the rest of this video. It was good whilst he was in the... Did I even let him talk? I don't know. He appeared in this video, and we do go out taking photographs, but he hasn't been in my videos properly since summer of last year when he was in my Bluebell video. But we do go out a lot more than I might show on this channel. Anyway, hopefully Pablo's going to be in some future videos, but he's not made it out for the rest of this. But he will be back. Now, I do enjoy a spot of irony, especially when I make it myself. The first part of this video, I was going on about how successful I am when it comes to predicting the weather. I get to locations and I've got quite a high success rate. And then within 2 minutes of saying that, the sun just smashes into a bank of clouds on the horizon. I shouldn't have said anything, should I? So you can see here, I'm actually on the white chalky path, and some of it is fenced off because that bit of the cliff is about to fall away. Maybe by the time you watch this video that's actually fallen away, but there's a big chunk of cliff there. It's on its last legs. I'm not actually going to be taking my shot from up the top here, but I'll take you up there and I'll show you the composition, and I'll show you why I'm not positioning myself up here and I'm actually setting up quite a bit lower down the hill. One of the things you need to consider, if you're coming up to the top of the hill with the Beachy lighthouse just behind me and you're photographing the Beachy Head lighthouse and the Seven Sisters cliffs in the background, this is a lovely composition, providing that that car park is not full. Now, it's still kind of like a man-made object. It's still got this road just curving around, which might look really good, but if you didn't want a man-made object in this scene, which is essentially grass, a chalky path and sea and sky, then this composition simply doesn't work, just because that road is actually very, very close to the cliff edge. So I'll probably take a shot here because I'm here at sunrise and my car is the only car in that car park. And now you can hopefully see why I parked at the far end, because that's as far out the shot as I can get, other than parking at Berlin Gap and then walking maybe 15 minutes over the top of the hill. So that's an alternative. But if somebody else parks in that car park, you've wasted your time walking quite far. So I think that this is really easy, accessible location on the basis that you can park down there and you've got a few minutes walk up here and you're ready to take the shot. Drones are very distracting. I essentially just missed the sunrise, but it wasn't like intense sunlight, and now it's hit some clouds, so I'm not bothered about that because this scene here needs direct sunlight. When the sun was just on the horizon with some low-lying cloud, essentially it wasn't lighting up the lighthouse. So I'm just going to wait for the sun to be a bit higher, cut through a gap in the clouds, and then I intend on shooting some long exposures. Before we get going on this shot, let me help you get your bearings. So behind me is Bella Toot. If you were to carry on over the top of the hill and down, then you would end up at Berlin Gap. I made a separate video about that where I said one day I'll be back here to shoot this. So we are done here at Berlin Gap. I'm definitely going to be back. If you were to go east of here, about maybe a mile, Beachy Head Lighthouse, I've made a separate video about that, but I actually went down onto the beach to photograph it from eye level rather than from the cliff top. Now, the point of this video is about being sensible. No photograph is worth you sitting on the edge of that cliff, and as I've just demonstrated with a drone, the views don't actually get much better the closer you get to the edge. Actually, the best views are way off over the ocean. You might think, Ben, that's an obvious comment, but last weekend when Pablo and I were here, and this was a busy sunset location, car park was full, tourists were everywhere, there were people sat on the edge with their legs dangling off the edge. Right, I don't want this video to fill up with comments about people being silly, but the point is, no photograph is worth it. Specifically here, the views don't get any better the closer you get to the edge. So I'm going to help you. I'll give you the what 3 words location for where I'm stood here. I'm a good 5 meters off the edge. If that's still a bit too close for you, then obviously you can come further in. If you're watching this in 10 years or 20 years in the future, that what 3 words location may be the ocean. So you've got to take that into consideration, but I'd say you want to keep at least 5 meters away from the edge for it to be safe. Bits of the cliff do fall off. In my Berlin Gap video, I showed a video clip from, I think it was the RNLI, and bits of the cliff just falling off, and there were people on the cliff top next to it as it was falling into the sea. So you just got to be sensible. The point is, no photograph is worth it. Okay, 2 other things to consider. Last weekend I came here and I brought a long lens thinking, yeah, I need a long lens for this. But the place where I'm going to is too close to use a 100 to 400. The 100 was just a bit too close. So if you're going to come here and you're going to take the shot from where I'm about to tell you, then I would recommend either 24 to 105 or a 70 to 200, because you'll be using the 70 end of that lens. The 100 to 400 was a bit too close. I ended up doing a panoramic stitch because that lens was just a bit too close. The second thing to take into consideration is that this location works better. It's high tide. So you've got to make high tide clash with sunrise or sunset or nearabouts. So at the moment I am 1 hour off high tide, and looking at the scene right now, that's working for me, so that's great. So at the time of recording this, which is early 2022, there is it's not even a fence, is it? Let's face it, it's a plastic post with some orange string on it, and that is telling you not to go near that part of the cliff, quite rightly. And the composition that I'm going to be taking today is to the east of that, and that allows you to cut out the road from the composition. That's it. That's the only reason why I'm down here. Ideally I would be in a more elevated position, but the road ends up being in it. The higher you go up that hill, the more chance you've got of having that road in your shot. Today I'm using the H&Y magnetic filter system, and I'm using a 10-stop magnetic ND. I've made loads and loads and loads of videos about this over the years, but if you're new to long exposure photography, essentially you want to set your focus first. So I've zoomed in 10 times on the back of my screen, I've focused on the lighthouse, then you switch your lens to manual focus, switch the stabilization off. I've got spirit level in the hot shoe on top of the camera, so I know that it's level. I've switched the camera to bulb mode. I put the grad filter on. Make sure you get your grad filter on first, and then I've put my 10-stop filter on. Now I'm going to be doing a long exposure, and probably starting at f8 just to see how that is. And if you're curious, it's not a coincidence, I'm shooting at 70mm for this composition. The importance of knowing your gear, I accidentally just put on a reverse ND grad, so that's for another video. Make sure you know your gear. So now that I've put on the correct grad filter, an actual grad, not a reverse grad, let's try that again. Hopefully we're not going to get any lens flare. Look at this though, drama in the sky. It's a beautiful morning to be out, seriously. The wind is just so calm. Last weekend we were getting blown around here. Tricky to make videos. Now although the conditions here are not incredible for the photography, it's definitely much easier to talk to you and show you around the location. But I think that I will be returning at sunset, because the light over here, I'm having to shield the front of the lens and the filters from the sun because I want to avoid glare. And at the moment it's almost an hour after sunrise. We've got some clouds just lingering on the horizon, but otherwise beautiful blue sky. I'm having a good time, but I think I'm going to be coming back. I think you should just mix it up and trying a variety of different landscape and then portrait images. I'm not going to go any closer to the edge for the reasons we've already discussed, but I think I will probably hike up the hill a little bit, slightly lower composition, maybe use that chalky path as a leading line, and actually I might take some pictures of Belatute. Now that's a tricky lighthouse to photograph, because on one hand you've got a very pretty lighthouse, but then it's got this ugly office flat roof box on the back. I'm not against flat roofs, I design flat roofs all the time, but that is not a pretty building on the back of the lighthouse. So I'd say it's quite difficult to get a pretty image of that. I've seen some nice examples of the Belatute in the day, like sunset, sunrise, but once again you have to get too close to the edge for my liking, so I'm not even interested in getting that shot. But a lot of people do some really nice astro images of this. Well, it just so happens that I'm really good friends with a photographer called Pablo Rodriguez, and he is one of those people that has some great images of this location at night time. Here is a selection of Pablo's astro images. If you want to see more of his work, then do check out his website in the description below. Thank you for letting me share your work, Pablo. Enough talking, here are some pixels. Just remembered one of the most fundamental things about photographing this lighthouse. You have to come here in the winter months, and that's because the sun is rising and setting over the sea. If you come here in the summer, I've done that. I was down at Berlin Gap photographing that. If you come here in the summer, it's going to come up over the land over there. The lighthouse is going to be in the shadow of the cliff. The image doesn't work. Second thing is, you want to come here when it's high tide if you're going to be photographing the lighthouse from here. If you're going to go down to the lighthouse itself, you want to go there at low tide, otherwise you're going to get wet and cut off by the tide. I think I've exhausted this location, so if you were planning on coming here, hopefully you know everything you need to know about tides, what time of year to come here, what time of day, etc. So if you've got any questions, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, stay safe, don't go near the edge of the cliff, it's not worth it. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.